Sergei, Ryabkov has said that the initial momentum for a Ukrainian settlement that emerged after the Trump-Putin Alaska meeting has been exhausted. Ryabkov has said that the powerful momentum generated by the meeting in favor of agreements has been largely exhausted because of Europeans whom he said are supporters of the war in Ukraine. Ryabkov has added that the impetus has proven to be exhausted as a result of defensive activity, primarily by the Europeans. About the relations between Moscow and Washington, Ryabkov has also said that Russia extended a hand to the US with its proposal on the New START treaty. He has added that if the United States is not interested in continuing the agreement, Russia will manage without it. Mr. Ross Feingold with us on the broadcast. Mr. Ross Feingold, I have to understand from you, as far as Russia at this point in saying that the momentum built with America has been exhausted, firstly, your thoughts on the same?
That's probably just negotiating posture. The United States government, the Trump administration, is still engaged in trying to bring the two sides together to some sort of agreement, whether that's an interim ceasefire or some kind of long-term peace agreement. And Russia is participating in those talks with U.S. envoys, for example, even though there's a lot of back and forth in the media, especially statements by Russian government spokespersons. But that process is still ongoing. So as long as the parties are still participating at some level, with some level of enthusiasm in those talks, then they're not dead yet. And everything else is just part of posturing for some kind of agreement and what the situation on the ground would be as part of that agreement.
But at the same time, Mr. Feingold, what does this mean for the future of the Russia-Ukraine war? Because we were under the assumption that Donald Trump has made some effort towards convincing both sides to finally put an end to this war.
That's right. And at times, President Trump has said things that indicated he was frustrated with one side or the other. More recently, those statements are usually with regard to Russia rather than Ukraine. And at times, it seems like President Trump is indicating that he wants to just give up and walk away. But he hasn't. He continues to be engaged. He continues to have his envoys engaged in this process. So as long as there's still some talks going on, there's reason for optimism that an agreement could be reached. But at the same time, we also have to keep in mind that whether it's Russia or whether it's Ukraine, while those talks were going on through U.S. Intermediaries, they are going to continue to battle each other. Russia is going to continue to try and make gains on the ground. Ukraine will try to recapture as much territory as possible. Russia will continue to attack civilian infrastructure in Ukraine, and Ukraine, to a lesser extent, will respond in kind. So the fighting will continue for the moment.
All right, Mr. Feingold, stay on with us. More news coming in. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister has also said that Russia's response to any possible supply of the Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine will be harsh and asymmetrical. He's emphasized that Russia knows how to shoot down the Tomahawk missiles and warned that those who supply Ukraine with such weapons or use them will face serious consequences. He has also urged the United States to take a responsible approach regarding the possible transfer of the Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. He has warned that the appearance of such weapons in Ukraine would present a qualitative change in the security situation. Mr. Ross Feingold, political analyst, with us on the broadcast. Mr. Feingold, once again, an interesting warning there from Russia, specifically to the United States of America, which, while wanting to mediate, is also now looking to supply more weaponry to Ukraine. Your thoughts on the same?
At the moment, Trump's policy actually hasn't changed. What I mean is, he's not willing to just give weapons to Ukraine, and that was a significant change from the Biden administration policy. And President Trump has said he's okay with the European countries buying U.S.-made weapons and transferring those to Ukraine. So whether or not that will include Tomahawks remains to be seen. It's certainly very possible. And yes, if Ukraine does have Tomahawks, when and if they're actually delivered and put into service by the Ukraine military, sure, it will do damage to Russia, and that's why Russia is very angry about this, and they're making statements about that. Will it significantly change the trajectory of the war, though? I think the answer to that is no. Yes, it might damage Russian assets, whether that's supply depots, military bases, et cetera, et cetera. Sure, Tomahawk missiles could do some damage, and yeah, maybe Russia could shoot some down as well. But is the use of Tomahawk missiles by Ukraine really going to change the situation on the ground insofar as how much territory in Ukraine Russia is occupying? The answer to that is probably no, and Russia obviously knows that as well, despite their loud complaints about this possibility.
Absolutely. Mr. Feingold, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast with that perspective. Meanwhile, France's acting finance minister, Roland Lescure, has warned that modifying the country's contested pension reform could cost hundreds of millions in 2026 and billions by 2027. His remarks came in as outgoing Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu continued consultations to end the political deadlock over the reform. The pension reform, which increases the retirement age to 64, has been a flashpoint since its passage in 2023. Politicians, including far-left figures, have called for its repeal, while Yael Braun-Pivet, president of the National Assembly, has urged a comprehensive negotiation on the issue. Far-right leader Marine Le Pen, who has repeatedly opposed the reform, said that she would block any new government action, including the budget. She called on President Emmanuel Macron to consider dissolving parliament and calling early legislative elections or even resigning. Macron remains committed to staying until the end of his second term in 2027, but France remains in a political gridlock, with the far-right party gaining ground ahead of the next presidential election. Meanwhile, at least 4 people have died as streets in Vietnam's Thai Nguyen Nguyen city remain submerged after torrential rains triggered by Typhoon Matmo swept through the region a day earlier. Roads have been flooded, residents have distributed food supplies, and rescue teams are evacuating people stranded by the rising waters. Authorities have said hundreds of families, including the elderly, women and children, have been moved to safer areas. A citywide power cut has also been reported. The floods mark the latest in a series of deluges that have battered northern Vietnam over the past month as a string of storms continue to hit the region. The weather agency in Vietnam has warned that up to 3 or more storm systems could impact the country before the end of the year, raising concerns about whether flooding and damage can really be controlled. This is all that we have time for. We will continue to bring you